Jim Ross. Why do you feel like now they've kind of, I mean, you called matches with him over the years. Why do you feel like they're kind of shifting him out of the big picture, so to speak?
Forgive me as I explain this, because it might be tough to explain in an audio fashion. Vince does not like JR's look. That's the reason why Mick Foley is no longer with the company either, because Mick did not like Vince's characterization of JR behind his back. That was one of, plus getting screamed at in your headset.
And I'm guessing you had that.
Oh, I used to just turn him down. I ignored him. Because I couldn't concentrate. It would get to the point, sometimes he would throw in a good suggestion. But when he was getting in one of those manic states that you know, it's not like you could talk back to him and say, shut up. You can just keep going. I would just turn down the headsets or move the can off my ear and be done with it. But the reason that Vince doesn't want JR to commentate is because he doesn't like his look. Not his look on camera, but his look backstage. Because Vince views everything, you know, you've heard the term life in a fishbowl. Well, that's what WWE is. All the performers, the superstars, the announcers, they all have to be on all the time, whether they're on camera. So Raw doesn't necessarily begin at 9 Eastern.
It begins when they arrive in the arena.
It begins when they get to the building that day, because that's how Vince views them. That's why they wanted to have guys start showing up in suits and looking, because Vince wants to see them as stars. Because for whatever reason in his brain, he doesn't process the fact that, well, so-and-so isn't dressed yet, and, you know, he has to see them looking like stars. He doesn't like JR's look. He sees him all the time, and he wants a different look. He doesn't necessarily want, he'll sacrifice sound for a better look, in his opinion. But the announcers are seen about 17 seconds on a 3-hour broadcast. So what they're losing, I think, is going to be the tragedy is that the voice of JR is not going to be, I don't think, a part of WWE television anymore. I would be shocked.
I mean, he's not even going to be at WrestleMania. I mean, no. That's a shame.
As we record this, WrestleMania is tomorrow. So who knows? But it's, how do you have the greatest announcer of all time, of our living generation, let's say? How do you have the greatest announcer of our living generation be at the venue, sitting in the skybox, but not working the show when he could be there?
Or now he's calling HBK Taker too.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of we're going to hear vintage Undertaker.
And I like Michael Cole, I really do, but he hasn't improved over the last 12 years. He has a little bit. He hasn't improved over the last 7 or 8 years.
Well, I feel like, like when he was calling, like when JR, you know, had his leave of absence medically in '99. I mean, he called him Mick Foley's title, and he was getting there. And I feel like ever since they moved him to Raw, when they switched JR to SmackDown, he's just kind of sounded robotic. Do you think that's more of just Vince kind of making him into his mold of their Ryan Seacrest kind of thing?
Absolutely. Okay. That's a very good comparison. Vince's mold of an announcer. And that's what... So Cole is not doing anything to say anything to ruffle any feathers, to push any buttons, to get himself over. He has the ability to be good, I think. But he chooses not to show it for... You don't want to get heat.
Yeah.
It's such a dysfunctional world. But again, if you ask him, he thinks everything is great and hunky-dory and happy. But it's only when you step away from that world that you realize, man, that's kind of a messed up place.